I've been waiting for this. You made me wait for 24 hours. Ugh. And the more that I think about it, you guys have been the most annoying thorn in our side. Not just me, but my co-host too. So I can stand up for the both of us. I'm not saying that I speak for him. I'm speaking purely for myself based on what happened to me yesterday. I'm coming in hot this week. Jimmy Pilato here, Far End of the Bench podcast. It is center of attention time, and I need to address, if you are online, I guess you'd know probably a little bit more, but if you aren't aware, I went viral yesterday. I went viral during the time where I was teaching. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. So it was one of those moments, I equate it to like you send something out on a plane right before you have to turn off your Wi-Fi. You go 6-hour flight across country. You open everything back up and you're like, oh, what did I step in? Oh, that's me. That's what, oh my gosh, what is going on? You make a couple statements that while I at the time, I say things, I don't try and clickbait. My list on Talking the Gridiron of the AFC quarterbacks, that's truly how I feel. I do think that it's going to shake out in some form or fashion that way. I put Anthony Richardson lower than Will Levis. I then doubled down on my comments, retweeted that, and said, it doesn't change the fact if you put on weight, that doesn't make you a better quarterback. You have the Bengals defense in the joint practice giving you the hardest time. And when it comes out in the media, nobody's back talking it or anything like that. It is professional sports. That doesn't happen. I was listening to the Bengals podcast, so there's obviously a chance that my information, it had to get secondhand passed along to them. They were talking, Dan Lapham, Dave Horde, and Dan Lapham was saying that he was talking to Colts personnel, and Anthony Richardson was reported to have gained 20 pounds. Last season, he was 245. If he gained 20 pounds, he'd be 265. That is the report that I heard from Dave Lapham. That is the source that I had. I did not state it on the show. I did not put it in any of the tweets. What I know about Colts fans, especially Colts fans on Twitter, you guys don't care when your feelings get hurt. Because my buddy Nico hurt your feelings a couple years ago when he brought up the very true fact that Peyton Manning was a much better Bronco and still lives in Denver and cares about the Broncos more than he cares about the Colts. You guys were pissy that time too. The only Colts fan right now that I know for sure that I like is Josh, our guy over at VSN. He has his NASCAR show on Sundays. He's been on the baseball show, Seventh Inning Stretch. He's been on Talking the Gridiron before with Darren and myself. That is the only sane, level-headed person that will not attack you for trying to speak what your opinion is. Is it fact? Probably not. It was a prediction show. No games have been played yet. But the games that have been played, I was incorrect. Anthony Richardson has finished a singular game in his NFL career. I said, okay, then he's 1 for 17. Oh, well, actually, he was injured. Okay, so he wasn't available. So he's one for 4 of the games that he was available for. You're still shooting at 25%. If you get a quarter better, you're shooting at half the time. You are going to be injured. Joe Flacco will be your quarterback soon. I will continue to be the biggest Colts hater in the world. You guys have now made it personal. I'm not going to lash out. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. I'm not going to try and put anything out there or, I am going to abstain from that conversation. But here's what I know. If somebody takes the time to hate tweet you, they're either a closeted fan, which it's 2024, guys. You can come out, you can say it, you're a fan, or you are jealous. And if you're jealous, it means I'm doing something right. So you can love it, you can hate it. I really don't care because either way, you're going to listen. I just care that you care. You can love me, you can hate me. It doesn't matter. It's time for episode 195 of the Far End of the Bench podcast with myself, Jimmy Pilato, Nico Bryant. Let's get into it.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
I appreciate you letting me step over bounds. We normally try and not double up center of attentions. I said that I needed to get this one off my chest, and it's the most amount of attention that we've got in, I believe I was looking at it earlier. This is 4 years. We're a little bit past 4 years with this episode coming out. So happy anniversary to all you bench warmers and to my co-host over there. But most attention that we've gotten in 4 years. I said one thing. I'm producing on the fly. So there's Nico. Nico, I said one thing about Anthony Richardson, and that's the most amount of attention that we get outside of a couple other, like your Jokic tweets normally go pretty well, but that was, it was like getting put into a dryer, not knowing that you were there, and you come out and you're like, why am I wrinkly? What happened? What's going on here?
Well, let me. You have two Colts friends. Jeremy is also a Colts fan for whatever.
Sometimes Jeremy can be a little okay. Yes, I do love Jeremy. I love Jeremy.
But Jeremy falls under the category of uneducated sports fans that can be idiotic at times. So it's that you have two friends that way. But
yeah, what he knows, he knows. That is true. I do like.
There's nothing that I love grinding his gears more than that Peyton still lives in Denver and that he finished his career as a Bronco than a Colt. There's nothing that grinds his gear more. Like I don't have that strong of a feeling on Anthony Richardson. I really don't. If he plays great. If he doesn't like he was a top 10 pick last year, and he was a guy that a lot of people were zoned in on, and the Colts just took a massive chance on. And unfortunately, the Colts had a situation where their quarterback retired in the middle of preseason because you couldn't take it anymore with your franchise, and they're still trying to recover from that. So, look, it is what it is. That team has not won a Super Bowl in 20 years, or nearly 20 years now, and they've been good for a very long time, but not great, and they've been around this relevancy for a while now. So look, they have hope. Good for them. I'm glad they have hope. I have hope in my team too. So it doesn't hurt to have hope. I just don't have that strong of a stance on whether or not Anthony Richardson is going to be a star or a bust like you.
I didn't either. Really, he was the 15th ranked quarterback on my list. We shouldn't have even talked about him. He was at the very, very bottom. Actually, 14th because I put Russell Wilson on the list.
You put him below Russell Wilson?
No, I put him above Russell Wilson. That's what I'm saying. Russell Wilson was last, and Anthony Richardson was.
That would have been a problem.
Of course. I think Anthony Richardson was actually above Deshaun Watson, if I'm remembering it right. Some people took it in a totally opposite direction. Like they saw that it was Darren Bryan and myself, and they're like, "Oh, 3 white guys talking about a black quarterback." I was like, I've never in that statement. If you watch the entire episode, I never once brought up the fact that that's what we were talking about. That was not what we were talking about at all. So those guys are stupid. But what they really latched onto was, he didn't gain 20 pounds. Look on ESPN. The measurables. Yeah, like teams don't screw with that all the time. I was 6'3" on our roster and 285 pounds. Come on now.
Like I would maybe argue and say Will Levis hasn't done shit for me either. So I would not probably put him ahead. That's
He's won more games than Anthony Richardson.
That's true, but
that was my deciding factor.
That's not a bad thing to put it on that, I guess. But like I said, these are all quarterbacks where I've seen minimal games from. It's two guys.
He's really not relevant. I think the Colts fans knew what they were doing, and now we're talking about him when we shouldn't be, because Joe Flacco will be the quarterback for the Colts in the future. I'm going to say that as many times as possible, and it's going to become true at some point this season. Book me on that. I'm not rooting for injury. Just book me on that. Let's talk about your sport. I know that you're not in it anymore. You're actually enjoying some travel for fun instead of travel for work.
Where my computer will be staying at home, and I will not be trying to stay off my phone as much as possible starting tomorrow as record this. So yes,
keep your phone close because CU does play tomorrow night, and that's going to be a story that we have to talk about. It's probably going to be a story that I have to talk about on Sunday too, because CU is one of those brands, and there's a lot going on right now with we're going to talk about college football. We skipped over college football week 0 last week, but before we get into that, PLL playoffs are on Monday, Labor Day. We have the first round matchups. Like I said, they're starting off with the Stars and Stripes Classic on ESPN Plus at 11. First playoff game between Carolina and Boston over in the Eastern Conference. ESPN2 and ESPN Plus, that one starts at 2 p.m. And then Denver will take on Maryland at 4:30 on Monday on ESPN Plus. So holiday PLL action. We're winding down. We're almost to the semifinals of the season, and then obviously the championship will be coming up soon. But out of those 4 teams playing this weekend, you've seen all of them. Everybody plays everybody in the PLL league. I know that Boston's a team that we talked about quite a bit. I want to know who's the sleeper out of the 4 teams this weekend that nobody, obviously, not necessarily nobody expected at the beginning of the season, but who actually has a shot of making a Cinderella run, because those are a little bit harder to come by from what we've seen.
I don't even know if this would count as a Cinderella run, but a team that's just been massively slept on because of how poor their year was last year, and then, but this year they've turned it on at the right time, including going 2-0 at home. One of only 3 teams to do that, and that's the Maryland Whipsnakes. And like the Whips have been, like I said, they've been catching their stride. Obviously, when they got Tucker Dorvick back in Baltimore before his jaw got severed into 10 different pieces, that was a huge help. But they bring in Ryan Conrad from the War Dogs to the trade deadline, and this team has so much offensive firepower with TJ Malone back there. You have the 4th overall pick in Ajax Zapatello, or 2nd overall pick Ajax Zapatello, being the man defensively, really stepped up. I look, the Whips are a team that I would not be surprised at all if they went on a massive run at all. The thing, like I said, the problem they're running into is the fact that they had their bye week the last week of the season. That could hurt them, that could help them, but they haven't played a game in 3 weeks. So that goes into, I think, a little bit of a factor, as opposed to DU, or not DU, the Outlaws, who just came off a playoff type game against the Archers where it was a win and you get the bye week. Obviously they didn't end up winning, but I would take a guess, and I would shoot for the Whips to be the underdog, not Cinderella story, because they've won it twice now in the 5 years the PLL has been around, but a team that should not surprise anybody if they're playing in the championship game.
Maryland is a community that we talk about a lot when we talk about lacrosse, and it's huge all throughout all levels. It's the East Coast, and it makes sense when you have a team based out of there. You have the fan support. I'm sure I'd be interested. I think this is going to be. It's not going to be very soon. It's going to be still a couple years away. But when they do finally make home stadiums for these teams, and you do have the playoff situations, you are going to have to travel. Everybody does it for the NFL. A lot of people do it for the NBA. We'll see how many people travel for this year's PLL playoffs because of the home city ties. It probably will be bigger next year, but I think that's something to watch during this first round of the playoffs.
Kind of a little crap that. Like, look, I have no say in any of this. Let me make that very clear. And I could care less because I know this fan base is massive, and I know you're playing at Gillette Stadium, so it's fucking cool. But having Boston be the home team, where the home playoff game, and no one else getting that, I think it's a little interesting. Is all I'm going to say.
Do you think that there was some tomfoolery at the end of the season?
I don't know about that, but I will say that having. I mean, look, Boston, New York, and Philly are 3 of the biggest markets in sports America. Okay, so there's zero doubt about that. And obviously, playing at Gillette Stadium in New England is a huge deal. But all I'll say is, if you can convince the new ownership group here in Denver, the most amount of people that have ever attended an outdoor lacrosse game was here in Denver also. So I don't understand why you wouldn't think about possibly doing that here. Maybe that's something they do. And then Long Island and New York, well, the Atlas, I guess they are the number 1 overall seed, so that kind of gives them a little bit of a benefit. It's weird. I don't know. It's weird. And then Philly, if the War Dogs made it that far, it would have been a home game for them too. It is what it is. But I think, like I said, these first 2 games, I think I'm really excited to watch them from afar and not have my best working hat on, and I can watch these as a fan and see how things are going to toy out, because I think they're going to do 2 very, very competitive games. Obviously, Chaos and Cannons went to overtime in the last regular season of the game in Utah against each other, and then Denver had a playoff game, and Whips are coming off of a bye week. So, and they're one of the hottest teams in the league. So, should be 2 very, very good games.
What team has the biggest X factor that will push them through to the semifinals to make it to Long Island? Is there a player? Is there a strategy? What do you think?
I think there's a couple. I think if you look at the teams with the buys, biggest X factor is probably going to be Jeff Teat for the Atlas. The guy is the MVP. It may be the biggest runaway MVP race of all time. The guy broke the scoring record halfway through the season, for God's sake. So the dude has been unreal. If he can get to his spots, Atlas are, like I said, you only have to win 1 game and you're in the championship game. It's a very, very good spot to be in, and they can make a lot of noise. For these teams, it's player-wise. I'll give you an X factor for each team. Chaos, it's going to be Blaze Reardon, the goalie. Obviously, when Blaze is playing his best best lacrosse in net. He's one of the best players in the world and one of the best players of all time in the net for that matter. So if he can play hot and stop the Cannons from easy plays and that solid chaos defense can stay sound, it's going to be a tough day for the Cannons. I'll also go another MVP candidate, Asher Nolting. Asher Nolting has been obviously
CCOD.
He's a guy that's going to feed the guy on the crease whenever he can. He's going to take some smart plays, back you down, Jokic style. He's going to do a lot of good things for the team. I think if he gets to a hot start, there's not going to be many teams that can stop the Cannons. Their offensive firepower between Holman, Matt Campbell, Pat Cavanaugh, they have a lot of weapons offensively that's going to be very, very tough to get around. And their defense is much more improved than they were last year, that's for sure. For Denver, for the Outlaws, I am going to go along the lines of a tandem here. I think Luke Weirman and Jake Messino, the two rookies at the face-off stripe, are going to have a massive play in this game. Two guys that I think going into the season that were very underrated, being drafted pretty low and lower than they should have, and they've been red hot. They've been fantastic, and if they can win the face-off stripe against Joe Nardella, who's another fantastic face-off guy for the Whip Snakes, and control the time of possession, they're going to be in a really, really good spot. For Whips, I'll keep it easy. Zed Williams, Matt Rambo, TJ Malone, that three-headed attack monster or offensively for them. If they can continue to stay hot, they're going to be a tough out.
All right, and then looking forward, we're not going to look at we can make predictions, but just the teams that are waiting, the winners of this round. You said conferences won't matter when we get to the semis, so the lowest seed will take on the Atlas, and the next highest remaining seed will take on the Archers in Long Island. They'll obviously start off with a Battle of the Badges next week on Saturday. That is our look at the PLL postseason, so hopefully everybody enjoys that. I know that it's getting bigger, so I'm glad that we can be one of the voices that help share what's going on there. But now it's finally time. It's finally time. We've been playing virtual college football for about a month. A little bit over a month. I just had to make one of my first payments on the credit card that I used to get my PlayStation 5 and my game and my console and everything like that. We have I'm so much so I can't even put words to it. I am so excited because we finally will get a somewhat regular bracket playoff in college football, and it starts tomorrow night. Biggest matchup for the Thursday games, and we'll look at a couple of there are a few ranked matchups for week one. But man, Florida State, you can't get out of your own way, can you? I'll put that score up on the board. If you missed it in Ireland, they went and played the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets out.
You still run the wing T, by the way.
No, they
they don't.
Not as their base. They can still run it. It's not their base offense anymore. They're not one of the three teams in college football that you run the option with. I still saw it a couple times. Oh yeah, no, they did. I think they said they had 15 total possessions. So what does that tell you? They did run. And Florida State never adjusted. Like you have DJ Uiagalelei as a transfer quarterback. All of the quarterbacks in the ACC this year are transfers. The kid from Georgia Tech's also transferred from somewhere else. But that is apparently Florida State should never, ever schedule Georgia Tech in their opener because that is not the first time that they've lost a game in a high-profile spot. The team that we are all kind of looking forward to, team that a lot of college football just likes to talk about in general, I have it up on the screen here. North Dakota State, FCS powerhouse, is going to come into Folsom Field in Boulder. Colorado is a 10-point favorite as it stands right now. The total is at 60.5, expecting a lot of points. For this CU team, it's going to be a lot of new faces. Transfer portal, recruiting was big. Coach Prime is a brand. Everybody talks about them. For this game, is there a world where the world does not burn down if North Dakota State walks out of Folsom with a win?
Well, North Dakota State is one of the best FCS teams in the country. Like they're a team that is a national title contender that's had NFL level talent constantly. So let's not forget about that. Will it be a tragic loss? And yes, it will be if they do. Like it'll be, especially at home against a team that obviously you have arguably the best two-way player in football in Travis Hunter. You have a guy who thinks he's the top quarterback in the country in Shedeur Sanders. You have a bunch of new transfers that came in You have Prime's identity. Basically, there is nobody left from the CU team from 2 years ago. It's entirely new team. Like this is the second year, so you expect uh, to have a little bit of a better year. You expect to be in a bowl game this year. You expect to contend for a Big 12 championship and a week of conference, and you were in Pac-12 last year. And you expect much bigger things. And if you come off to a terrible start against frankly, a FCS team that doesn't have the recruiting availability you have, doesn't have the pull you have. They just have guys that go up there and go there just to play good, hard-nosed football in North Dakota. Like, if you lose that, like, you can't think to yourself you're going to contend for a playoff spot in the top 12. You don't, like I said, look, that's the one good thing about the 12 team playoff and a team like Florida State. Yeah, they lost week 1. It doesn't knock them out. Like it would have in years past. It doesn't knock them out. If they run the table, still go on a hot run the ACC, still play very well, they can still get in very easily. But for CU, it's different. The Big 12, you're in a brand new conference, brand new strength of schedule, and you are just there's no familiarity with anybody you're playing against, and they're like that not once. There's not nothing to go back with, except ASU, U of A, and I think Utah is still on the schedule too. Those are the only 3 teams you have any familiarity with. I think Nebraska technically counts too, but whatever. In conference, you know what I'm talking about. In conference, yeah. So you have to get going, and you cannot dig yourself into the hole. Last year, you started off great, went 3-0, beat some shitty teams, and then everyone was talking about you, right? This year, frankly, if you get off to a terrible start, the last thing you need is people talking about you because it's going to get worse and worse. It's going to get worse.
You believe. So
if you can win win against North Dakota State on tomorrow, you'll set yourself up to be in a position where you can coast for a couple of games and then get into your tough part of the schedule and see where you're at as a team and see if you really can make a run at this top 12.
Yeah, everybody has the CU-Nebraska game marked because it is a major historic college football rivalry, especially back when both teams were in the Big 12. But it's like one end, they can both be undefeated and possibly looking to turn their programs back around and reach some success that they haven't reached in a long time. Or they could both stumble out of the gates, be 1-2, and you're like, okay, whoever wins might have a shot to claw their way back somewhere near the top of their conference. But both those teams have wild swings. Last story that I'll say about this game, we did have a coach in high school who did play against North Dakota State up there in the Fargo Dome in North Dakota. It was so cold they could not keep water in the coolers on their sideline. They had to keep chicken noodle soup in the coolers because the water would just freeze. So they were drinking chicken noodle soup out of their Gatorade bottles and on the sidelines out of the Gatorade coolers. So I
don't think it's going to be that cold.
No. It's 87. It's predicted to be 87 in Boulder. So North Dakota, if anything, might be at a little bit of a disadvantage because it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. They're not going to be used to it. Actually, depending on where they are, I was just out in South Dakota. It's pretty warm. I don't know. North Dakota State has a chance, but CU should win.
They should win, but like I said, this is not a game where I'd be that surprised if they just start off very poorly and North Dakota State comes in and punks them because, like I said, North Dakota State's a good FCS team and they consistently are winning FCS national championships or they have NFL talent. So it's not. Look, it would be an upset. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like a fucking Kennesaw State versus fucking Alabama. Like this is not. It's not David Goliath here.
Yeah, you got to know where both sides are at. For Saturday, we go from 10 a.m. and it's just nonstop wall-to-wall football. Georgia Clemson's going to be in the Aflac kickoff game. Number 1 team in the country, number 14 team. That'll be a fun matchup to start things off with. Looking through the rest of them here, I think there's a couple more ranked matchups. Texas versus Colorado State. CSU's looking to beef up their out-of-conference schedule, it looks like. Middle of the day games. Air Force will be fun. All right. Well, before we get to the nightcap, let's just talk about these starting games because even in the not both ranked opponents, I think that there's some matchups that we can talk about here. So Georgia Clemson to start off with. Georgia's had a little bit of a wild offseason with some of the things off the field. Not necessarily out of the ordinary for major Division I college programs. You got to bring in guys from all different backgrounds, and college kids are just dumb in general. So the fact that they're all driving 110 miles an hour, not safe, shouldn't do it. I'm saying right now, nobody should ever do that. But is it unexpected of a college kid? No, not really. For that matchup, are you expecting Georgia? Do you agree with the national narrative that Georgia is the team to beat? They will be the SEC champion, number 1 seed in this year's playoff, and will be playing whoever can make it in the national championship. That seems to be the story going around.
Well, if anything, like you want to go off of what went last year, right? Georgia was a team that was in a playoff all season long. Alabama beats them SEC championship. They lose 1 game and they're out. Right, that was the nature of the way their season went. Right, they were dominating everybody, lose 1 big game, and boom, we're looking at other teams. Like it was an entirely different story for them last year, and this year they have a quarterback that's better than Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck is going to be a much better talent, and you look at the run game, you look at the defense. It's still one of the best defenses in the country. They have ETN still back there. Trevor. I think that's
Trevor.
Travis.
Trevor Etienne. Travis is in the
Travis's
NFL.
younger brother. Travis's younger brother. It's a team that should not be stopped. Plain and simple. And Clemson is a team that's still in this weird limbo where Dabo Swinney is still contending for an ACC championship, but they're not a team that you're consistently being like, oh, this team's going to win a natty. This team's going to do this, that, and the other thing. They'll beat their schedule, and they know who's how to scheme against certain teams. But I don't know what the line is on this game, but I would take a wild guess that Georgia is pretty strongly
14-point favorites.
That's all you need to know. Clemson going into Georgia too. That does not help. It does not help. So I think that Georgia should dominate this game very handily.
I believe it's a neutral site, but the neutral site is being held in Atlanta. So it's
still,
not a neutral site.
No, it's not.
There is no neutral in sight. But the rest of the games, the other ranked matchups happen. It is Labor Day, so college football has the awesome tradition of also having football Sunday this weekend as well as Monday. The Sunday matchup, LSU, USC, both teams that need to prove they actually brought a defense to the schedule this year, because last year, I mean, what else? Everybody said everything about Alex Grinch. He's now the secondary coach at Wisconsin. He was the defensive coordinator for USC last year, and they didn't play defense very much.
They couldn't stop a soul. And
CU barely lost to them because their defense was that terrible. That's all you need to know.
USC is going to have a very rude awakening once they get into this Big Ten schedule. Okay, let's not forget it's a Big Ten schedule. They're not in the SEC. Big Ten schedule where you'll have to play good hard defense. This is a test. This is the USC could have. Look, I think USC could be a fringe bowl game team. To be honest with you, because of how hard their schedule is going to be going into some of the Big Ten cities they're playing in. This is a very tough test to start, and if they can get by this game, I think this is on the road. No, it's in Vegas too, so they technically will be the home game in some way. So, but
LSU fans travel like nobody's business, though.
They do travel, so I don't know. We'll see. I don't trust LSU either yet. Losing Jaden Daniels, I think that every time you have to replace a Heisman-winning quarterback, it's very tough, and you're usually going to have down year. Yeah. But Florida State is or not Florida State, sorry. No, but USC is just a team that is losing just as much, and they did not gain a lot of people in the transfer portal either. So I would take LSU if I were to go on a whim here, and I think USC has a very, very bad year, if I'm being honest with you.
That could be an interesting line, especially if the defenses are both terrible, because I can see this one being a wild shootout and coming down to just a few points. USC is the 4-point underdog, and the total is set at 64.5. So Vegas is telling you lots of points, but neither team is necessarily above the other. And then the weekend will finish up on Labor Day. Florida State always has the Labor Day game. Now trying to bounce back. They're already 0-1 in the conference. Boston College is the most beautiful get-right game of all time. Hopefully, if Mike Norvell and the boys can actually take care of business and not get accidentally sucked into something, then it'll be fine. Let's get into some predictions, because this is also something that I've been seeing going around, so we might as well throw our hats into the ring, and everybody knows how much rankings and everything like that. It's just a beautiful thing. Everybody loves them. So looking at the preseason rankings, and we'll also talk about the way the format is set up. So there are 4 spots, automatic qualifier bids into the quarterfinals, which are the bowl games, the New Year's 6 games that we are used to. Those go automatically to the ACC champion, Big 12 champion, Big 10 champion, and SEC champion. The highest ranked group of 5 champion will either be the 5 seed, or if Notre Dame, since they play no conference championship game, they are the 5th next best team. They will get the 5 seed and host a home playoff game first round. And from there, it's after the 5th seed, it's next best ranking. So could have a few teams from the same conference, could have a whole bunch from a lot of different places. It does open up the field quite a bit to more of those group of 5 teams, but it is still very much based on having a lot of Power 5 in the bracket, and SEC is going to be dominant. Big 10 is going to be dominant, especially with the moves that were made and the teams that were added. Those are all teams that were already in the 14 playoff contention, and now with 12 teams, I don't see many of those programs taking a step back. So with that being said, we have to select a Pac-12 that was a bad Freudian slip. Big 12 champion, ACC champion, SEC champion, and Big 10 champion. So which conference would you like to start with? And we can kind of roll from there.
Well, I think the SEC may be the most difficult one because Alabama and Georgia are going to be the two-headed monster there. Obviously, Alabama bringing back Joe Milton will help them big time, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be a Heisman candidate, if not a Heisman front runner. And obviously Georgia with Carson Beck is we've already talked enough about them. I am leaning towards Georgia taking the SEC crown after Alabama won last year. I think Alabama is going to be just as good without Saban, but I think when it comes to the playoffs, I think that's where they're going to struggle. I think when they come down to playoff games and having that inexperience of Kalen DeBoer, who I think will be a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he'll be Nick Saban level, but he's going to be a great coach and still keep that program one of the best in the country. I just don't think that he will be fully prepared for the playoff type atmosphere when he gets to the SEC championship, because no offense, Pac-12 championship is a little different than the SEC championship. And we saw what Washington put out in the playoff last year. It was not a great performance. So I'm going to lean Georgia for the SEC.
I believe that Georgia is going to represent their side. There is no more sides of the conference. It's going to go by best record. My kind of sneaky pick to also be around the SEC championship, because if they don't do it this year, then we're back to, okay, when are they going to be back? But Matthew McConaughey is – yeah, I do think that Texas and Ole Miss are 2 sneaky teams, because Ole Miss had the most amount of success in the transfer portal and the offseason recruiting. They still have Jackson Dart, who absolutely balled out in their bowl game. I remember watching that when I was on my cruise ship somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I think that those 2 squads also have to be put in contention up there with Alabama's, especially because we don't know. Everybody's talking about this is a new feel for this Alabama team. There is no tyrant walking around. Not that it's a bad thing, but like people walked on eggshells when Saban was around. You're not walking on eggshells with Coach DeBoer, because Coach DeBoer is a much more approachable guy, and it's not a bad thing, I'm saying. But we don't know if that's going to be successful at Alabama. It's been really, really, really the most successful and the most successful program we will ever see over that long stretch of a time. It's worked for that long. I don't know if this is going to work for Alabama, and those other squads have a lot more continuity than a guy taking over a new position in such a high-profile role.
It totally overblew me that Texas was an SEC.
Yeah, that's where the banners are a detriment.
Like Quinn Ewers, I think, could be a big problem for the SEC. And if there's one team, there's 2 teams. I'll throw Oregon's hat into this too when we talk about the Big Ten, that are prepared for the conferences. It's Texas and Oregon, because Texas has played that style of SEC football, good hard nose, air it out, but still have a great running game and good hard defense. They're prepared for SEC type football. Oregon, now we can switch that over to Big Ten. Oregon with not Real, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma now, and a lot of returning starters too. They look like they could be a wagon, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think the defending national champions are in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I think that's a sturdier limb than what you were probably anticipating at the end of last season.
Because that Ohio State-Michigan game, I think at the end of the season, I think will mean a spot in the Big Ten championship against Oregon. That's how I think it'll play out. And I think I'm going to, and Ryan Day hasn't shown me this yet, but I think I'm going to give Ohio State the edge in this year with McCarthy gone, with Corum gone, with a lot of offensive pieces gone, defensive pieces
Bringing
gone.
in Chip Kelly as your true OC, and now Ryan Day only has to focus on recruiting and being a head coach on Saturdays.
So I think that will help them, and I do think Ohio State can get to the Big Ten championship. But I'm going to go the first time ever, first time in the conference. I'm going to go Oregon here, and I'm very, very high on Oregon. I think Oregon will be the team that wins the Big Ten. What I saw from that team last year, obviously Bo Nix was incredible with that offense last year. They really hit their stride very, very quickly, and like I said, they have a lot of returning guys. And look, no offense to Bo Nix, everyone knows I'm a Bo believer, okay? But Dylan Gabriel can step in and do the exact same thing that he did. So I think from that position, I'm going to give Oregon the nod and winning the Big Ten this year.
People should remember too that Dylan Gabriel started his college career at UCF, which is a similar style offense to what he's going to be running in Oregon, and he wasn't suited as much for. Oregon runs a lot of concepts and crossing routes, and they use their speed to go and knock guys off of each other as they're trying to defend. Oklahoma attacks downfield, and they love to throw the deep bomb or have their quarterback run. Gabriel is a hell of an athlete. He's a lefty, so it'll look a little bit different, but I think he's going to love having just the amount of speed that they have in the receiver room. I think that they're obviously a liable pick to go to the conference championship. My team that I'm going to say in this one, and I guess I'll be just the dark horse guy, I think people are looking at Penn State, and it's similar to what people say with Texas. James Franklin, get us there. All we heard about was the fact that it was a 14 playoff. That's why we're never there. We should have been in. If it was a 12-team playoff, Penn State would have been in, going all the way back to Saquon. You got to do it. You got to prove it. If you don't prove it this year, if you don't beat Ohio State, if you don't beat Michigan, if you can't handle, I believe they play Oregon too. If you can't handle Oregon coming in and they beat you in your conference that you've always been a part of, then I think Penn State has a lot of issues and we see a lot of turnover. So if the Nittany Lions handle their business, take care of the big games, because that's been their struggle over the last few years, I think that Penn State can find themselves in the Big Ten championship.
They can't win the big game. That's plain and simple. They cannot.
Even back with Saquon. Saquon lost to Ohio State 3 out of 4 times.
Since we started this podcast, we always say, "Oh, Penn State's a sleeper. Oh, Penn State's a sleeper. They're going to be a good team. They're tough to play." And then they can't win a big game. And then we're like, and then we're sitting here, they're going to finish around 10 to the 6 to 10 range, and they'll have a conversation about being in the playoff. But are they really going to be that detrimental? Because James Franklin can't do anything when it comes to big games. So that's the only reason why I'm standing a 10-foot pole away from Penn State winning the Big Ten, because of the teams they added and the teams that are still there. So I think Penn State will finish 3rd or 4th in the conference. I don't think they're going to have a bad year by any means, but 3rd and 4th in the conference may still get you into the playoff.
Yeah, a lot of the seasons that I've been playing in my dynasty, they end up as like an 11 seed, so that they get a home playoff game in the first round and then find their way moving on, which could be their path. Maybe they just can't beat those top teams in the conference, but they can beat out of conference teams. It's hard to put that much faith in them. I think Wisconsin might be a little bit different to look at this year too. They were bad last year, but if you remember who took over as their head coach, guy left Cincinnati and pissed off a lot of people. Luke Fickell is out there, and he's at least going to make them tough like they used to be. I think Wisconsin will beat people up, especially at the end of that Big Ten season when you have to go up to Madison. Let's go Big 12 next, because that also is a conference that has a lot of new blood in it. Big 12 added Arizona State. BYU is now in the Big 12, and we also have UCF was in it last year, Utah, and Colorado being added as well. But who do you see in the Big 12 making a name for themselves and winning the conference this year?
It's 100% Utah. I with Cam Rising in his fucking 50th year of college, I am going and look, I think that Utah is going to come in, and I think they're going to run the table with this conference. I think that teams are going to give them tests. Oklahoma State, it's a very, very good ball club. Kansas State is very, very good. Arizona, I don't think can play that style of football. They're more air raid offense as opposed to the hard nosed Big 12 style football that Utah has known to do. And obviously I don't think CU can fucking win the conference. So if they do, it's the fucking biggest miracle known to mankind. So I'm going to go with the Utah Utes here. I just think that they're physically and mentally prepared to dominate the Big 12. I would say that it's going to be Oklahoma State versus Utah in the Big 12 championship with Utah taking the win and getting the bye if I were to guess. Because like I said, Utah is, like I said, they're just a good football team year in, year out. They bring in good recruits that know the system. They don't do anything stupid offensively. They just play their style of football. And with Cam Rising, like I said, in his 50th year in college football, and he's been there, done that. So I think that Utah wins this conference, and I think it honestly might be pretty easier than we think.
It scares me. I know that he's been there forever, but this is also like the third injury that he's trying to come back from in that time that he's been in college. So yes, Cam Rising Utah will be very successful. Arizona, I know that you're using your Pac-12 bias against you now.
I don't trust Arizona. I never will. I don't know what.
But did you watch them play last year?
No, I did not.
So that's what I'm saying. They actually, in the Pac-12, they were one of the top defenses. They held teams to a lower score, and their offense was one of the more explosive. And I don't think that they lost that quarterback in the transfer portal. I'm going to make my buddy, my former punter from college, very happy. But I think that the Bearcats out of Arizona, they have a much better chance of any of the other Pac-12 teams that came into this conference to not besides Utah, because I forget Utah is also a Pac-12 team. They should have been in Big 12 a long time ago with as good as they were. But the other teams that moved in from the Pac-12, Arizona is not one to sleep on. They are that is a true dark horse because yes, they've been terrible and they're always mentally weak in Arizona college sports ever since Jake Plummer and Pat Tillman are no longer there, kind of are bad. But this is a year that I can see Arizona being much better than a lot of people have expected because nobody saw them play in the Pac-12 last year, and they were actually playing damn good football.
I'm never going to root for an Arizona team. I'm just outside of GCU, so I'll just put that out there also. So Arizona, I've seen them lose bad games. I saw them lose to CU. Like I'm not a believer. I'm not.
All right, and that leaves us with the ACC to round out the automatic qualifiers. Clemson, Miami, NC State, and Florida State, all the ranked teams in this conference. Miami they brought in Cam Ward out of Washington State, so they have a transfer quarterback. They also have Mario Cristobal. If you remember, the big part of their season last year was the Georgia Tech game, funny enough, when they decided not to take a knee, run the ball, fumble, and then give up a field goal to lose the game by 2 points. But the Hurricanes, you've been high on the Hurricanes. You said that they were going to be one of the teams that you started a dynasty with when we were talking about getting the college football game initially. Is Miami a team that you can see in the ACC possibly winning the conference and getting that last spot as an automatic bid?
Well, after what Florida State just showed me this past weekend, nothing surprises me at this point. I think this first week is going to tell me all I need to know about the ACC. It'll tell me whether Miami can be that sleeper team. I'm going to pick them. I think Cam Ward coming in is going to be a massive help for them, and I think that helps Cristobal just take that next step. And like I said, I think the way I saw things with Florida State, I think Uagalele, that's going to be I'm not convinced that he is a fucking legit quarterback at all. After 5 interceptions, throwing for negative passing yards at one point in the ball game in the second half, I'm not in on Florida State. I'm not. After everything that happened last year with them saying they should have been in a playoff, but they weren't, and blah 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 with Jordan Travis, this, that, and the other thing, and then you getting absolute shit canned by Georgia in your bowl game, and then this year you come in and put a stinker out when you should have just dominated Georgia Tech. So I'm out on Florida State. Clemson is the wild card there. I think Clemson is a prove it to me team this year. I think it's a prove it to me team. I need to see it. Need to see it consistently, and need to see them play it, beat the early teams of their tough schedule, because that might end up hurting them and getting to where they want to be this year. So I'm going to go out on a limb. I'll take Miami. Cam Ward his first year there with Cristobal, and Miami getting an ACC championship first time in probably
since
2003.
2003,
20 years, 21 years. It's been a long ass time. So give me the U back on top.
All right. I don't hate the U pick because I do think Cam Ward is probably going to be the best of the transfer quarterbacks that came in. NC State also has everybody in this conference does. What I think I want to talk about with this one is in Clemson. I know that Dabo's Dabo and they have him signed for life. It doesn't seem like they're ever going to move away from him. Nico, there were 4 teams this year that did not pick up anybody out of the transfer portal, and it was 3 service academies and Clemson.
That's interesting.
The only school that you did not need a congressional approval to get into was Clemson. That did not get a single transfer. Like you are letting college football pass you by, and if Clemson fans are content with letting this happen and wasting what was your dynasty window, and now you're going to be just irrelevant because your coach refuses to move into the new age because they also have a very low NIL total. Like I would be a little concerned if I was a Tigers fan.
I agree, and like I said, with how Florida State played in that opening Clemson is giving, that gives a chance for NC State and Miami to do the unthinkable and get a bye in the first round, right? It absolutely does.
All right, let's look quickly at just the rest of the rankings. So we've made our picks for the conference champions. We don't necessarily have to pick seeds. I'm not going to make us be that detailed. We'll pick the seeds when the bracket's actually set. But looking around, other teams that I see, we didn't pick Alabama as a conference champion. I picked Texas as my SEC champion. If they don't win the conference, those are 2 teams I see getting bids. Ole Miss, I think, if they don't blow up in the middle of the season with injury, they're a team that I can see getting a bid. Notre Dame should win and be a top team. I can see them getting that 5th seed. Is there a group of 5 team? I know this is a stretch because you don't watch nearly as much college football as I do. Do you think that there's a group of 5 champion that you could see possibly getting that 5th spot over Notre Dame? That'll be our last question. Then we can move to the NFL.
Unless there's like a Memphis or there's a team out there that just goes on a stupid hot run where they go undefeated. They played a tough out of conference schedule. Like I said, I don't know off the top of my head those teams, but I'd be interested to see a team like a team from the American Conference. That's usually where it comes from. Cincinnati's now in a Big 5. UCF Big 5. There's not many non-Power 5s now, quote unquote, even though it's Power 4. I know non-Power 5s that could get that bid. Maybe Washington State if they go on a run.
Be Pac-12 champion. Pac-12 champion out of 2.
And out of 2, and they go undefeated, and they play a tough
Hey, we won our round robin schedule against Stanford. We're the Pac-12 champs, baby.
So maybe, but Stanford's in the ACC.
Yeah, I know they moved to the ACC. I can't.
Oregon State.
We won our round robins against Oregon State. Woohoo!
So maybe Washington State, but no. If I were to take one non-Power 5 team to, I think there's only going to be one this year, and I think unless someone comes out of the blue, but I think the only one that'll be a non-Power 4 conference will be Notre Dame in the playoff this year.
Yeah, it makes sense. We'll talk more after week 1, obviously, where our pick'em will be returning next week for NFL football, but for the last of our preview series, and then we finally have football coming back next week. We are 8 days away because we are live here on Wednesday. I am going to get the standings pulled up for the division, and I'll start showing you guys that. We are at the Beasts in the East. We're going to do the AFC, NFC East preview. I will also be doing another NFC preview this Sunday on Talking the Gridiron. Obviously, that show's got fire and gasoline written all over it. Which fan base am I going to piss off this week? I'm going to spin the wheel and find out. Let's start with the AFC East because they do have a lot of talk. That was also another point of contention. People were not happy that I made Aaron Rodgers my 3rd best quarterback in the AFC. I don't know why you're not happy. Because
in the AFC or the AFC East?
No, it's in the AFC. I put him in the AFC because of what he's done, and I think that
he's the second best quarterback in his division. And
you think Josh Allen is better than Aaron Rodgers?
Yes, because he played. Let's throw in the conversation we just had about Anthony Richardson. How many games has Aaron Rodgers played for the Jets? Frankly, how many plays has he played for the New York Jets thus far?
3.
Exactly. 3 plays. That's right. Thank you. So less games than Anthony Richardson. So yes, I'll take Josh Allen, who's coming off of multiple playoff appearances, and Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't played an actual full football game in fucking 2 years, as the best quarterback in the division. Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm pissing off Nico with my quarterback.
I
still have faith. And what I'm going to say,
it's not even a hot take. I feel like to think that Josh Allen's better than Aaron Rodgers right now. He is. He is.
The last full seasons that they played, I would have had Aaron Rodgers over Josh Allen on my team. I would have taken that pick.
Well, you would have been a first-round exit too, because the Packers haven't done anything in 4 years. So
Okay, I get a longer offseason to recover instead of losing in the next round in the divisional.
The same exact thing. And the Bills have been to the AFC Championship and have had just as much honestly, just as much playoff success as the Packers have had since Aaron Rodgers, since Josh Allen came in the league, to be honest with you. So it's about the same, to be honest with you. There's no and
I'm sorry, more along the lines that there is not a good quarterback.
Fire in New York also, because there's still a dumpster fire going in Jets land that they're still trying to trade a guy for a box of cookies that they can't get to anybody because they just traded for him and gave us John Franklin Myers, who's going to be an absolute stud. The Jets are the biggest dumpster fire still in the NFL. And you're telling me Aaron Rodgers is still going to be the second, third best quarterback in this conference? Hell fucking no. Hell no. Hell no.
That's it. I will say what I said about the Colts. I could be proven right, and if I am, I will take my lap. If I'm not, I can sit here and admit when I'm wrong. I feel like Josh Allen, without a guy like Stephon Diggs, like who is he going to throw to and make an All-Pro receiver? He hasn't necessarily made an All-Pro receiver out of anybody yet.
He did it for Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis is good on his own. I think Gabe Davis is going to be fine in Jacksonville without him. He's going to make Trevor look better. He's going to make Lawrence actually look like he's worth that contract. I don't think that there's a really good quarterback in this division. I don't believe in jiu-jitsu. I don't believe in Joe Milton because I refuse to acknowledge that Drake May is the
Joe Milton's going to be the third quarterback because they already said that Jacoby Brissett might be the starting quarterback for New England.
Well.
So it's not
woohoo! Even quarterback sneak specialist. Sneak.
I just think Aaron Rodgers is probably the fifth best quarterback in this conference, and that's because I still am high on Burrow. I'm still high on Mahomes.
He was right after Burrow
Josh Allen.
He was after Mahomes for me.
Still Josh Allen. Oh yeah, and the MVP was also in this conference. Thank you very much. That's
running back.
Lamar. Still a quarterback. Still lines up behind the center and gets the ball first. So whether he's a running back or not, still one of the best quarterbacks in the division in the conference. So the Jets. It's the biggest year of the Jets. It's the biggest season for the Jets since the Mark Sanchez fucking AFC Championship run, because you have all of the pressure. If you suck, your team is done. Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. Sauce Gardner may be the only thing you'll be talking about. Robert Saleh will be fired. Nathaniel Hackett may drive your team into the fucking ground. If you do not win this division, New York, you are going to have an all-out fucking war. It is going to be mayhem because Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be your savior, right? Aaron Rodgers, you brought him in. Same thing. Look, I have experience in this, okay? I have experience of a team that was in this limbo of we suck, we're decent, we suck, we're decent. That's basically what the Jets were before Aaron Rodgers stepped in the door. Well, you bring in a old-ass quarterback to save you, and it didn't work out for me, obviously, and I'm not calling Aaron Rodgers Russell Wilson, but I need to see it. And the man has not played a full fucking drive with his team. He hasn't played in preseason either, Jimmy. He hasn't finished a drive. It's not finished a full drive, not a quarter, not a game, not a full series of plays where he's calling the plays in his ear with Nathaniel Hackett and echoing it to a team. He has not done that. So no, I do not believe in Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Not at all. They're the third best team in this division, and that's because New England sucks ass.
Let's be clear. Nathaniel Hackett doesn't call plays when Aaron Rodgers is on the field. Rodgers calls his own plays, and
I hope so. I hope so.
Are you kidding? So. That's what
Robert Saleh likes things a certain way. So
okay, yeah, no, I truly believe the only reason Nathaniel Hackett had any play calling duties last year was because Zach Wilson was at quarterback, and we can't just run.
He was ass.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't think that he's calling plays this year. Rodgers will call his own plays. That's what he did all the way back in Green Bay. The only time that he didn't call his own plays all the time was when LaFleur came in. He said, give me first and second down. You make whatever call you want to make on third down. He still got at least that much of the playbook. You can't give a guy all the money that you did. You can't give him as much hype as you have. He's going to win or lose on his own. It's going to be up to him.
Plain and simple, Jets fans, whether you like it or not that I list your team as the third best, you know how much pressure this season is. You know how much pressure this is, because if you stink, what are you going to do? You're already having guys that got traded and say, I don't want to be here, haven't shown up, Hassan Reddick. You have receivers that have been that have been arguing with Aaron Rodgers during practice and Garrett Wilson. You still don't have a number 2 guy really that you can highly rely on. Tyler Conklin, maybe. Breece Hall coming off an ACL injury. I mean, look, you need a good year is all I'm going to say. If you do not have a good year, Salah's gone. And maybe that's a scapegoat. And then you're going to year 3 with Aaron Rodgers, and he's another year older where he's 42, 43. Are you sure that Aaron Rodgers is not just going to retire? I'm serious. Tell me.
Here's my thing.
Dom, if you're listening to the show, tell me where I'm wrong, because I'm not. I'm not wrong in the slightest. Everything I'm saying is completely facts.
This is where I'm going to say it's not going to be a Peyton Manning where he falls off after the injury, because he doesn't have any degenerative issues in his muscles. Injury. I know. I get that. That's what I'm saying. People are comparing the two. I'm hearing this. I'm addressing what I'm hearing. People say that he's going to have a shitty season because he's coming off the injury, and after the injury, Peyton wasn't the same, but there is no degenerative issues with Rodgers. It seems like he healed fairly quickly from the injury, and he could have come back and played, quote, quote, nobody knows what to take with him when he says anything, but in his words, he was ready to play if they made the playoffs. He was going to be at least possibly available. I don't even know. Again, why are we wasting this much time on a team that we're both picking to be third in the division?
Yeah, well, it's because Jets fans rule. New York market rules the world. That's why.
Well, and because guess what? They're one of the whinier fan bases. I would put them second behind the Colts.
Maybe the Cowboys throw in their hat too. There's a couple out there, and we'll talk about the Cowboys here in a second because they have some shit going on too. But the Jets will be lucky to be a wild card team. Is all I'm going to say. The Bills will still win this division because they're so good defensively. It'll be them shooting themselves in the foot. I fully believe that their running game is going to get much better with James Cook. After they fired Ken Dorsey, their running game got so much better. So having James Cook in his second year is going to help them massively in the run game. Take the pain off of Josh Allen. So I have them finishing 1. Dolphins were one of the best teams in football halfway through the year. It seemed like no one could stop them and look, Jiu-Jitsu over there lost 40 pounds. You want to talk about losing weight? The dude over there looks like a fucking slim Tua. And look, they still have probably the best weapon in all of football, Tyreek Hill. You get the ball to him in open space, he's going to make a play. Jalen Waddle is more veteran. This defense has lost some pieces, but it's still going to be very, very good. There is no other way to put this than Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. That's the way it goes for me. I would be, maybe you flip the Dolphins and the Bills, but I know you don't like the Dolphins, so I think we're going to be very, very solidified in this.
No, I don't like the Dolphins. The Jets, I just can't see putting any higher than 3. The Dolphins get 2 by default, but I could see the Dolphins not making a wild card because of the end of the season. And we talked about it on Sunday. You had the division title game week 18 last year at home.
You had a bye almost. You had a chance to buy.
That's what. If they beat Buffalo week 18 of the season at home, they don't have to go to Kansas City and butt-ass cold weather.
23, yeah.
Like,
you have a bye
it's real
week
simple.
Home, yeah.
It's real simple. If you don't want to deal with the weather, take care of when you have the weather advantage. Everybody knows you have an advantage playing in Miami or anywhere in Florida in December because nobody's used to the humidity. Nobody's used to their nether regions sticking together. But they didn't handle business. I don't trust them to handle business. When I picked on Sunday, I did pick the Bills, and I said that the Jets could possibly be one of my wildcard teams, but I don't trust the Dolphins to be a wildcard team. If they're 2 in this division, I say that this is one of the worst divisions in football because all of the negatives from each of these teams, everything that they lost is going to be a bigger disadvantage than we're even anticipating. So I see the Bills winning the division and being in the playoffs, and then if another team does make it, I'd see the Jets as a wild card. I don't see the Dolphins as a wild card team this year. For the NFC East, the Cowboys finished with the division title. No team has gone back-to-back in this division. I believe it's been like 20 years, something crazy. No team has won back-to-back division titles. They've traded it all throughout. The Giants just won it a few years ago, I think, or maybe they were a wild card team. I can't remember. But let's talk about the Cowboys because they paid CeeDee Lamb an exorbitant amount of money. They just made my life even more miserable because Jamar Chase is now continuing his sit-in because he sees what everybody else is getting that is nowhere near as good as him. Like CeeDee Lamb's he's a really good receiver. I would
great.
fine with him on my roster, but he's not better than Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase is getting more than $136 million.
It's also the guy getting him the ball that's increasingly better as opposed to Dallas, which they have to pay Dak also. Let's not forget. So the fact that they paid CeeDee Lamb all this money, it shows that the Cowboys struggle this year. It's who's going. You know who's gone is all I'm going to say. You know who the figure is going to be pointing at. It's going to be McCarthy. And it's going to be the guy under center. So there's a very it's almost that big a make or break here, because after what they did, losing in the first round at home to Green Bay, to a team that we all said they have no chance of winning this game. Dallas is so damn good. This and the other thing. A team that brought Ezekiel Elliott back in his fucking 30th year in the NFL to be your lead running back, because you lost Tony Pollard to free agency. They have no running game, it looks like. The offensive line is it has guys retiring, guys injured still. Defense is not getting any much better either. Mike Parsons is still very good. I saw Deron Bland for the DBs, who led the NFL in interceptions at one point last year, is going to be on the IR for a certain amount of time. This Cowboys team could be a fucking disaster, is all I'm going to say. And it's leaning towards it being that.
I can see this. A couple years ago, they were the best division in football. They've also been the worst division in football, where they have a team under 500 win, Washington. There are some interesting parts. Like, if Jaden Daniels is good, I can see Washington being ahead of New York, because I don't believe in Daniel Jones and I know what he is. I'm not as high on Philly necessarily. There seems like there's a lot of strife. They seem to be kind of taking over as the Cowboys fan base. It's our year. It's our year. The most amount of next year's Super Bowl champion tattoos that never cash, I believe, is now the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. I've seen a lot of them where they're like, oh yeah, we're going to win this year and get the tattoo in the preseason and don't even make the playoffs. You go 10-0 and then struggle so far all the way down that you lose to Baker Mayfield in the wild card round. That's where you're at as a franchise. I just don't trust them very much. So
I'll be the one to drink the Kool-Aid. I am riding the Eagles high. I think Barkley adds so much dimension, so many dimensions to this team. They don't have to throw the ball. They could run it down people's throat if he's healthy. That's the other thing. You can put Jalen Hurts in the run game too, again, with the option. There's just a lot more. There's a lot more depth and a lot more options now. Obviously, you probably have one of the best receiving groups in the NFL with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and now Jahan Dotson too. Like, this team has weapons galore offensively. Their offensive line is going to get worse. Obviously, not having Jason Kelce be the leader there. They still have Mylara. They still have Lane Johnson. Still have some big guys there for them to help them get there. So offense may be one of the best offenses of football if they play a sound way. Defense is where they lost some pieces, where they're going to lost Son Reddick, lost a couple guys here and there that they could slow down. But I think they run away with this division. Because look, this is how I have it. I have Philadelphia Eagles 1. I have the Commanders as number 2. I think there is no I think there is no pressure at all on Washington. The boogeyman is gone. He's gone. Like, he is out of the building. It is a new regime. It's a new tenure. I think they are the second best team in this division. I think Jaden Daniels has a case for being Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I think he just does wonders with Terry McLaurin and having Brian Robinson and just trying to build a good young group for Dan Quinn. Who I believe, right? It's Dan Quinn is the head coach now for them.
Yep.
For Dan Quinn, who has coached in this division for multiple years and knows what the offenses are going to be, and knows what the defense knows what it's like to beat the Eagles, knows what it's like to beat the Giants and be in the NFC for so long. So I have Washington number 2, Cowboys 3, and I think the Giants are the worst team in football. I just plain and simple, they are not talented. Malik Neighbors is going to be an all-world receiver. But my God, I don't know if Daniel Jones will even have time to give him the ball.
I hope Malik Neighbors has a breakout season, because I feel like he's one of my steals in our fantasy draft.
The problem is not him getting open. It's a problem of getting him the ball.
You see the shirt. I know that struggle.
But no,
I know that struggle.
But it's Daniel fucking Jones.
No, I know. I get it. Yeah, no, I don't know that much struggle, but I know the struggle of having a guy running 25 yards open. And you're like, I can't throw him the ball.
And have less than 1.5 seconds to get the ball off. And that's with having a good quarterback before he even got great Joe Burrow. That was before Joe Burrow became as good as he is right now. That was a very young. And now he has offensive line and things could go better. But this is Daniel Jones, who's probably at the height of his career. Probably won't be much better. Probably won't be much worse. Probably be the same motherfucker. And the dude is look. If he wasn't paid the way he was, he'd be a backup somewhere right now. 100%. If he did not get that stupid ass contract, which they gave to him, and not Saquon, and not some of these other weapons on the defensive side of football, the Giants would be way better off. But unfortunately, look, the meme of Joe Burrow throwing to T. Higgins with Penei Sewell in front of him, and as opposed to throwing to Malik Neighbor, and as opposed to throwing Jamar Chase with people in his face, is the exact same thing for Daniel Jones, except for the fact of, if Daniel Jones had an offensive line to throw on the ball, I don't even trust him to get him the ball in time, for the first part about it. Secondly, and you throw in them having a terrible offensive line that is constantly injury-ridden, and he's a bad quarterback, this team will be drafting Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers number 1. Just put it on a fucking sticky note, and I'll die on that hill. This will be the worst team in football by far and away, and they'll be drafting a QB number 1 next year, guaranteed. Guarantee it. So I that's the way I see it. I'm just high on the Commanders because I think they got the monkey off the back. I think Dallas takes a step back because they have 0 running game. I think CeeDee Lamb will still have a great year, hopefully, knock on wood for my fantasy team. But I think the Eagles run away with this division. They're just so much more talented, and honestly, probably more well coached at this point than the other teams, and more veteran. I would say maybe the Commanders are the second best coached team in this division with Dan Quinn's tenure. As McCarthy, can't trust him. Dable up in New York, I don't think he even knows what his team identity is. Like I would give Sirianni, as weird as that sounds, Sirianni the edge in coaching to across this division.
We're going to move quickly. I'll make my full predictions for the NFC this Sunday on Talking the Gridiron. I do have practice to get to, and if you noticed, I'm taking care of all the dogs today because everybody else is out of the house. So I've been babysitting, trying to run triple duty, podcaster, producer, and dog sitter. So we saw the same show over the weekend. It probably was the same exact show, different circumstances, different venues. I said it last week. I was in my cowboy hat. That was one of the best concerts that I have actually seen live. The way that he sounded at the Dillon Amphitheater. My girlfriend Carly and I went to Dillon this weekend, kind of hung out down there and saw the show. Obviously, it was different because I didn't pay for the seating. I got general admission, and then they have it's an amphitheater, and then they have the grass area above, and you can kind of like stand or sit if you brought your own chairs. We didn't because I didn't know. I'd never been out there, but it was still awesome. I stood the entire time he was playing, and I have a video of how he sounded. I would say one of the best sounding concerts that I've been to. We were off on the side of the stage, and the way that the sound traveled through everything, having the lake, the reservoir, Dillon Reservoir in the background. Plus, I've been wanting to see him for a long time. I've been listening to Park McCollum for about 3 years. I knew pretty much every song that was playing. A lot of the songs I knew every word to, but it was just an overall great show. You saw him the next night. He actually was given I know that you had other things going on Saturday. He was giving people shit. He's like, oh, you guys want to go to the Red Rock show, but you don't care if we're in Boise, Idaho or Dillon, Colorado. You want to go to the Morrison show. You want to go to Red Rock. So Deco got tickets to the Red Rock show last minute, sprinted there from the Bronco game, and then got drenched.
Oh, my God. Look, I'm not as big of a Parker McCollum fan as you. I still like his music. Still think he's a great concert. Corey Kent, the guy you showed me, as an opener, was incredible. I've been listening to him the last couple of days. He's awesome, too. It was a great show. But, my God, that was one of the worst experiences I've ever had at a concert. I got drenched. And look, people know that I fucking ride or die shit. If I go to an event, I will sit there until the very last second of anything. So I didn't think too. It was beautiful during the Broncos game. I got a little sunburn on my arm from the game, from the sun beating down on me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be perfect. I have t-shirt, jeans, and a normal hat, like they did for the cowboy hat. Just a normal hat, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then I look at the weather. I'm like, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be very bad. So Corey Kent goes on. A little bit of an elevation change, some weather differences. You go 45 minutes in a different direction in Colorado, things get different quick. So Corey Kent goes on. Beautiful weather, perfect weather, not a problem at all. And then the break in between the opener, or I didn't see. I didn't get there in time for the opening.
She was good. I can't remember. I'll look up her name so that we can give her credit. She was good, and
I
she
think-
sang with
yeah,
Parker in one of the songs.
I did. Yeah, she did that at our show too. Like I wasn't there for the opener because obviously I was coming from Mile High Stadium, so I fucking booked it. But we sit there and I start feeling raindrops, and I'm like, this is gonna be bad. And they're like, oh, slow down. Nope. Got worse. The winds were horrible. Obviously, you're on the hill, and for those that have never been to Red Rocks, it's a massive fucking hill that just goes up and up and up and up and up. And you some little wind, that rain is going to feel like you're getting smacked in the face by cold water constantly. And that's what it was for a solid 20 minutes. In between, no concert, by the way, no music playing. In between, so we just sat there and ate it. And it started to slow down finally, right before he came on. And I was like, all right, I'm going to use the bathroom before he comes on. We'll be fine. So Pat and I go to the bathroom, and I see a store. I see the Red Rock store. I'm like, let me check the weather. Oh, it gets worse. The weather did not get better. It got worse during his concert. So if you look at the pictures, I don't know if they probably posted pictures somewhere. But for the first like two or three songs, beautiful weather, perfect weather. And then as soon as as soon as a Hell of a Year comes on, or maybe it was a couple songs before that, it just fucking goes. It just downpours. So I got smart and got ponchos. And I was not dry as shit. My legs were still freaking soaked. But I had a poncho on. We had ponchos on, and all of us together, me and a couple of girls from Pat's work. And man, it was, like I said, it was a great concert. I would never fucking do that again. And my right mind, like I said, I like Parker Calm, not as much as you, but there's very few artists that I'd do that again for. Is all I'm going to say. Very few artists.
Oh, they brought out you guys got. Oh, that was the year before. I was trying to find
Peyton
pictures from
there,
this
no,
weekend,
Peyton
but they didn't have any from this weekend. The year before, he did have Peyton come out and sing Red Dirt Road with him. No, I just what I kind of look for now. I'm obviously deep into country music. Zach Bryan is your guy. Like how you feel about Zach Bryan is how I feel about Parker McCollum. Similar genres, but just different stories that they tell through their music. I thought it was awesome. It was a hell of a country music weekend, and it was an awesome trip. So I'm glad that you got to see him. Sucks that it was in the rain, but it was better. It was not a better venue. It was a more famous venue.
That was one of the two stupidest things I've ever done, but it'll still never beat the waiting 8 hours in line for In-N-Out. It won't beat that. But it was pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb. Not be able to relax, maybe do some mock drafts for our fantasy football draft on Monday, which it was. Not do any of that, but instead book it from Mile High Stadium home, change, go from home to Red Rocks, and just sit in the pouring rain and oh man,
it sounds like a country song, Nico. It sounds like you lived your own country song.
Yeah, playing "Burn It Down" when they started playing that in the pouring rain, I was like, dude, where was this fire about 3 hours ago? Man, I'm fucking freezing up here.
Yeah.
Give me some heat. I need something to help me out.
Fucking closer though. I will say that it is a hell of a closer for him. We gotta wrap this up because I'm probably gonna be a little bit late now. Hopefully the dogs treat me nicely, but that was, like I said, it's awesome. Chase Beckham was the opener. Corey Kent was the feature, and then Parker was the headliner. Brought both openers out to sing with him in different songs. And if you haven't heard Corey Kent yet, I know that he's really good. It sounds like a mixture of what you used to hear on the radio, and then has a little bit of that new sound telling, he's telling his own stories and everything like that. That's what country music is best for. Thank you, everybody, very much for tuning in live. Episode 195 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. I said it at the very beginning, but I believe this is actually 4 years, almost to the date of the first episode that we ever released. If you want to torture yourself, you can go back and listen to episode 1 when that was before Nico's dad gave us the come to Jesus. Like, you guys don't talk like that. Talk how you really actually fucking talk. And then that'll probably start being a little bit more successful. And lo and behold, he was right.
He was right. It's crazy how right my dad is half the time. Sometimes it pisses me off, but it is what it is. So yeah, we've come a long way since episode 1.
We got a lot more things coming. The season is going to be starting soon, and the Pick'em will be back. We have fantasy football coming up, and then college football will be rocking and rolling, plus PLL Playoffs will continue on for the next little bit. Thank you very much for tuning in. Subscribe at FUOTB Pod. Follow all the channels. Check us out on Talking the Gridiron Sundays. Nico will be making some appearances possibly this season, and everything else. Have a good rest of your week. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come Come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.